Hey guys, so today I want to go over the perfect landing page plan. I just wrote a blog post about this and I thought I'd throw together a video for those of you who just don't care to read or are in the car and want to watch this and listen or whatever it is. I just kind of wanted to walk you through the perfect landing page plan in order of importance, 1 through 9. There's 9 steps here. And really, if your funnel's not converting as well as you thought, or there's some issues, you're getting a ton of leads in, or you're getting a ton of traffic, but you can't seem to convert it, here are 9 steps, like a checklist that you can follow to make sure that your funnel is in the best place to convert, right? So let's start off at the top. I'm going to get right into it. Number one, you need a powerful headline. You need a powerful headline. Everything we're going to get to step number 9 in a second, but powerful headline above the fold, I'll explain what that is in a second, is so important. You want to make sure that this is big, this is bold, and you want to make sure that the headline is twice the size font-wise of your subheadline. So that's usually a rule of thumb that I go with. 2 times the size of the subheadline. Why is that important? Because it's all about the eye. It's all about grabbing the eye's attention. And when you have a headline that's the same exact font size as your subheadline, the eye doesn't know where to go to, and the eye doesn't know what to place importance, right? Where to place importance. So it's important for you to have a powerful headline that's big, that's simple. I recommend keeping it to 5 to 7 words if possible, but as long as what you do and what your funnel does or what your service or your product is there to promote, if it's encapsulated in that headline, as long as it's concise and powerful, that's all you need. So step number 2 leads me to an equally powerful subheadline. Now the subheadline is meant to sort of continue the explanation of what the headline presents. So the headline is there to get interest, and there's a framework I have up here for the headline. I'll go back to this in a second. If you don't know what to write for the headline, there's a couple frameworks you can use, right? So you can answer yourself a couple of questions. So question number 1 is, what does your product or service solve? And number 2, who does it solve it for? Then you take those 2 answers and you put them in a sentence, and it's basically problem you solve, the word for, F-O-R, and then who it solves it for. So an example would be real estate planning, which is the product, the solution, the product that it solves for busy CEOs, who it solves it for. Quick and healthy meal plans, that's the product that you're trying to solve, that you're trying to use to solve something for moms on the go, and that's your target audience. That's who you want to solve it for. That's the first framework. The second framework you can use is, again, 2 questions. Number 1, in 1 or 2 words, what does your product or service do, right? And the second question is, what problem does your target audience go through all the time? All the time. So we're trying to address a pain point here. So, and here's how you would build it up in this sentence. So the sentence would read, we, your product or service here, without your target audience. So what does that mean? Like, let's give a couple of examples for context. So in 1 or 2 words, or maybe even more, what does your product or service do? So let's take the example of a trainer. So a trainer, if it's a trainer, we help athletes perform better, right? That's what your product or service does. That's what the service does. We help athletes improve performance. We help athletes perform better. So now question number 2, what problem does your target audience, your athletes, go through all the time? A big problem with athletes is the conditioning time. Like, they have to schedule conditioning time to get themselves to a certain peak shape by a certain time. You know, the start of the season, or get ready for playoffs, or whatever that conditioning time is, they need to be ready. So any sacrifice or any deviation that takes them away from that conditioning time is a pain point. They want to get better at something, but it's very difficult for them to do so because they have to keep within their conditioning time constraints. So that's a pain point. So it's very difficult for them to change up their routines. So in this case, we put those 2 together. Here's the headline. We help athletes improve performance without sacrificing conditioning time. So you're explaining what you do and you're explaining the pain point that you're alleviating for them. And the word without is a very great way to kind of explain how you solve that pain point. So another example would be like somebody that does taxes uh, from home, right? We do your taxes without you having to leave home. That's a great example. It's a great headline. So now let's talk about the subheadline. Point number 2, going back to the subheadline. Now the subheadline should continue from what the headline had stated. So if we take the example of, let's say, the taxes, right? Let me go back here. We do your taxes without you having to leave home. That's the headline. The subheadline can apply, this image here can apply to this headline that we just used as an example. So we do all the hard work to help you and your employees save. In this case, we can change that up and say the subheadline could be, we do all the hard work to help you and your family spend more time together. We do all the hard work to help you do more with your time. That would be the subheadline. So you're taking the headline, we do your taxes without you having to leave home, which is presenting the problem or presenting the solution that you offer and the problem that you're helping to alleviate. And then you're explaining a little further what exactly you do. So we do all the hard work and how that benefits the other person. So that subheadline should continue what the headline originally touched on. Number 3, a detailed description. Now when you start to get into the body of your funnel page, you want to make sure your description is in detail, but is also in a logical order that they can understand and comprehend. The important thing with these descriptions is that 1, you're clear, 2, you spell everything correctly, 3, your grammar is great, because nothing is more frustrating than reading something that you cannot understand, right? And a lot of times it has to do with spelling and grammar issues. You have to triple check your copy. Sometimes I've seen cases where funnels will be up and the copywriter, quote unquote copywriter, will have missed 2 to 3 words at the end of a sentence. It runs into the next sentence and now you're totally confused as to what they're trying to say or what they're trying to explain. It looks unprofessional. It looks like you don't have your stuff together. And who wants to trust a company who can't even explain the product properly, right? So make sure your detailed descriptions are on point. Number 4, testimonials. This is huge. This is huge. Testimonials basically go back to the concept of being part of a tribe. We as humans long to be part of a tribe. We want to be part of a community. We want to be part of something, right? Being a human alone can kill you, basically. Like that's part of our genetic DNA. We always want to be part of something. We want to be involved in a group, in a community, in some shape, right? In some fashion, in some form. And so by you including testimonials on your page, you're presenting to the reader that, hey, not only do you solve the problem, but you also have this community behind you that's had their problem solved. And this is a community that also loves what we do. And so by you coming on board, you're part of this community that have said that they love this, that they feel so much better about this. And so when you become part of a community, you expect to take on the traits of that community. So if you see a community of happy people and you jump into that community, you automatically lift your happiness up because you're just around people that are happy. And so that same psychological concept also applies when talking about testimonials, right? People want to be part of this tremendous life-changing or business-changing endeavor or product or service that you're providing because they see other people doing it. Social proof. Social proof. If you don't have testimonials, well, actually, before we even get there, if you don't have video testimonials, which I always recommend, number 1, because that's so powerful, written testimonials are just as good. I've had some people just hit roadblocks because they just say, well, I feel too embarrassed to ask my past clients to write me a testimonial. Okay, fine. Here's what I'd recommend in that case. Write a testimonial yourself, as though you were the other person. Send it to that person. Hey, I wanted to write this testimony. I wanted to put up some testimonials on my landing page. I pre-wrote a testimonial about our work together. Do you mind if we put this up and say that you use this as your testimonial, basically? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes. Why would they say no, right? They don't have to do any work. You wrote it for them. They just look it over. Yeah, that's great. And if they love your product, they'll be happy to oblige. No problem. Now, if you don't have testimonials about your product, maybe it's a new product, maybe you're new in the business, or maybe you're expanding into a new business, and you've never been in that business. One tactic that I love using is character testimonials. So, if it's a new product in your business, umbrella business, and you have other products, and take one of the testimonials about your other products and focus more on the service you provided rather than the product itself. So, for example, if you're a company that makes bats, right? You sell bats, and all of a sudden you get into selling baseballs. Now, it's going to be hard for someone to give you a testimonial about how good of a baseball you create. So turn around and ask a client to give you a testimonial about how fast the service was in turning around the bat, or what the quality of that product was, and use those words and put it in your baseball testimony, because you can deliver it just as fast and just as well. If you're new to the business and you don't have any products, or it's a service-based business, I'd recommend just getting character testimonials. So, past coworkers, friends, old bosses, to just say, hey, this person knocks it out of the park every time, no matter what they do. That in itself is enough. The important thing is that you have some kind of third-party testimonial to really back up what you're trying to say, what you're trying to sell, right? So that's testimonials. Have something. Number 5, call to action. It's pretty obvious. Call to action. You want to have a call to action. You want to take them to the next step. So I always see call to actions as though you're taking the person's hand and you're walking them through and you're giving them a tour of your product. So if your product was a home, right, and you're showing them the home, you want to make sure that you're the one that's guiding the tour. You're the one that's going to say, great, I'm glad you like the kitchen. Let's go over here and let's check out the bathroom, right? It's the same thing here. With the call to action, you want to take them to the next step. Okay, great. Now that you read all of this, here's the next step. Contact us. Here's the next step. Call us today. Here's the next step. Claim your coupon code. Here's the next step. Buy now. Like the obvious next step in your process, that's your call to action, and it's as simple as that. Number 6, clickable buttons, not links. Now, what's the difference? Clickable buttons are actual buttons like you see here on the page. It's usually a square or a circle, and it looks like a clickable button. And a link is just text that if you click on it, it'll take you to wherever you're trying to go. So why buttons and not links? 2 reasons. 1, buttons are a lot bigger in size and are a lot easier to click when you're on your phone, because they take up more surface area on your phone, so it's easier for you to just click, right? Links, because they're buried in paragraphs or they're at the end of a sentence typically, it's a lot more difficult for you to, with your thumb and your finger, to pinpoint the link and hit it, right? So it's just easier. It's just easier. Why would you make it difficult for your visitor? The easier you can make it for your visitor, the higher your conversion is going to be. So make it easy for the visitor and just include a button and not a link. Highly, highly recommended. The only exception would be in your footer if you're doing like terms and conditions, privacy policies, et cetera, that kind of, low bottom of the page disclaimer type stuff, just because there's no reason to have a button, it's not really, that's not where you want to drive them to. You want to drive them to the next step. You don't want to drive them to go read your terms and conditions. That doesn't make sense. So number 7, no third-party links. Why would you spend all this time, energy, money driving people to your page only to take them somewhere else, right? So unless it's another page on your site that is talking about the specific product you're trying to sell them, please do not take them elsewhere. I understand, the concept of providing value when you want to give them all the resources they can get, but it just doesn't make sense for you to take somebody away from your page when the entire focus is to try to get them to take that next step, whether it's to book a call or sell or buy or whatever, right? So don't include third-party links on your landing page. It's great for your website, your full complete website, but if it's a landing page specifically designed for selling for funnel purposes, don't include third-party links. Doesn't make sense. Number 8, images and or video. The more images you can present and the more videos you can include, the better. This is why I'm doing the video, because people consume images and video a lot faster and a lot more frequently than they do text. So it's just how the world turns nowadays. Images and text are a lot easier to consume and absorb than text. People don't want to read bodies of texts. Example, if given the choice between reading the Harry Potter books or going and watching the Harry Potter movies, what do you think the majority of people would do? There are some people that are book nerds and would rather read, but that is a very small minority. The majority of people would rather go watch the movie and be entertained and sit back, right? That should be your answer right there. So if you can explain something through video or through imagery, just do it, right? Highly, highly recommended to do as much as you can on images and video. And then the last one, I like to call this above the fold is gold. What does above the fold mean? Above the fold is any content that shows up on the screen before the first scroll down. So any content that shows up right away before you scroll down. That's called above the fold. Below the fold is content that you can't see because you have to scroll down the page to get to it. So above the fold is gold. So here, try this test. Like once you go through your entire funnel, if all you could do was use all the content above the fold to sell your product, would you still get leads? If yes, then you have a solid above the fold content, I guess you could call it. So that's the idea: is can the content above the fold stand alone by itself and still convert? If you can do that, your conversions will be amazing. If someone has to scroll down, then you want to work on improving the content above the fold, right? The content below the fold only serves to bolster your arguments, but above the fold should hit them right where it hurts in a good way and should want to encourage them to take action. So make sure above the fold is gold, right? So that's it. That's all for me. Make sure you implement. We can theorize all day and we can talk and make videos all day, but unless you implement, you'll never know if these changes are going to work for you or not. So use this as your sort of your barometer to measure how well your funnels are set up, and make sure you hit all these points. And once you have that, then you can A/B test what's working, what's not. You know what I mean? Use apps like Crazy Egg or Hotjar to see where they are as far as what kind of content they're seeing on your page. That's another video for another day. But take that, implement. I hope it helps. And if you don't follow me already, follow me, like my page, etc., etc. Do all of that. And if you have any questions, hit me here on Facebook or shoot me an email, Tony@PostOak Agency, and I'll be sure to reply right away. Have a great day. I will talk to you guys soon.